Edward Snowden's father, Lon, paid a visit to the Post and, joined by his lawyer, spoke to our reporter Jerry Markon for more than an hour. Among the topics, Lon Snowden's description of how the U.S. government asked him to fly to Russia to speak with his son.
I was asked if I would consider flying to Moscow, and I said yes. I said, however, I want to know what the objective is because, and I want to be able to speak to my son to see if there's value, because I'm not going to fly to Moscow to sit on the tarmac, to be an emotional tool for you.
For the government, you mean?
For the government.
Yeah.
And so...
What did they say?
And so initially I said, so can you set up communications? And initially it was, well, we're not sure. And I said, wait just a minute. Folks that I work with could set up communications, you know, any number of ways.
So you thought you'd be a pawn?
Bottom line is, we offered.
Right.
We partnered with them. Bruce was involved with this.
Right.
They were unable to set up communications
with Edward.
And so as a result, that did not work.
Lon, you said at first that publicly that you wanted Edward to come back to the U.S. You said that publicly, and you just indicated that these talks were initially designed to do that. But I saw you said the other day that you think he should stay in Russia. Why the change?
Absolutely, new reality. Well, simply the behavior of our government, both our Congress and the Justice Department. I have again lost confidence that they are operating in good faith. Very simply. I want my son to get it. You said it. Let me. You said it. Where at this point, you know, unless someone's been living in a cave or they don't have a TV, could my son get a fair trial? Now, we talk about the Eastern District of Virginia. You know, where you cannot throw a rock without hitting a defense contractor. How could my son possibly get a fair trial there? Possibly. And look, you know, you cannot take this in pieces. You know, you're asking me questions here as to why maybe at first I really was trying to encourage my son to come home, and now I'm saying remain in Russia. You can call it an epiphany, you can call it intellectual evolution, but I've been following the media and members of Congress very closely for the last 60+ days. And the constant media churn, and so many talking heads, and so many people who've written op-eds or whatever, who have absolutely no clue as to who Edward Snowden is, sharing opinions. I've watched that, and I've realized that it is absolutely propaganda. And then when I hear the White House accuse President Putin of using, you know, this as a propaganda opportunity, it's amazing. I mean, I almost feel like I worked for great leaders throughout my career, men and women who were magnificent leaders. I know what leadership is, and what I've seen at the highest levels of our government is absolutely amateurish.
Let's talk about Edward growing up a little bit. What kind of a kid was he?
You know, I'm only going to share so much of his background, but what I will tell you, he grew up in a wholesome family, a patriotic family, a family in which he had many relatives who were federal law enforcement officers, military, police officers. So certainly there was a patriotic streak. Everyone in the family always recognized that Edward was the brilliant one, and everyone who knew him. He was a gentle child, and as a child, as a man, I have never known him to be cruel or harsh with anyone in any way at any time.
How was that patriotic streak manifested?
I think it's best described in the action that he has taken. People want to paint him as a spy, a traitor. Again, tell me how he has benefited from this. You know, he has chosen to release information at great expense and peril to himself, to share with the American people that he believes that their constitutional rights are being violated by their government. I would say that's how it manifested itself. As a man in uniform, you know, I had watched what had happened with the Bush-Cheney administration. You know, I understand what we needed to do after 9/11, and I was part of that. But in terms of the invasion of our privacy and the incredible fusion between the corporation and the state, which just is incredible, that growth. And you look, but this isn't about, I don't want it to seem as if I'm bashing the Obama administration, because this isn't about Bush Cheney or Obama Biden. This is about Bush and Obama. You know, this is, and that represents that.
Right.
You know, my son started working in the Intel community in 2003, and so he saw how things evolved, and he'd hoped, as President Obama had suggested, that changes were going to occur. Instead, I would argue that things have just gotten much, much, much worse.
Edward said this,
and that has brought us to the present.